Item number 2 is the library department.
And as the department makes its way up, just to note, for the items in this morning session, if we don't get through them, what we're going to try to do is trail them to the afternoon session, and then we'll see where we go from there in the afternoon session. So if we can have staff introduce themselves for the record and just let us know how much time you're going to need for your presentation.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Kate, Council President Pro Tem, and Council members. I'm Misty Jones, Director for the San Diego Public Library, and I'll need about 6 minutes. Okay. Next slide. The San Diego Public Library serves the educational, cultural, business, and recreational needs of San Diego's diverse communities. Our mission is to inspire lifelong learning through connections to knowledge and each other, and our vision is the place for opportunity, discovery, and inspiration. We had many accomplishments this year. The increase in materials budget last fiscal year allowed us to expand our digital resources, foreign language, and other collections. We implemented a training program at the City Heights Idea Lab for multimedia production, resulting in paid internships within the city. We implemented several new services during the pandemic, including Book a Librarian that allows patrons to virtually connect with library staff. And through SD Access for All, we implemented a hotspot lending program that has been extremely well received. We have 2,000 hotspots in circulation, and 90% of those are currently checked out. Looking forward, I'm happy to say that the Beckworth Library opened this past Monday, for Monday through Thursday, and May 16th, we will be reopening the Claremont and the Ocean Beach libraries Monday through Thursday, and as soon as our new staff are onboarded and trained, we will get them open on Friday and Saturday. We will also then be restoring our Sunday hours at the 14 library locations throughout the summer, and the groundbreaking of the Pacific Highlands Ranch Library later this year. The library's annual budget did increase this year from $60.7 million to $65.5 million. The addition of the 56.1 FTE and the $4.5 million in personnel expense is primarily due to the addition of full-time and part-time benefited positions added in FY22. This addition was annualized, so this addition seen in FY23 is due to the remaining amount being annualized from last year. There are several significant budget adjustments for the library department. $578,000 is for the window washing at the Central Library. There's $253,000 that will be ongoing and a $325,000 one-time cost. The windows at the Central Library have not been cleaned in quite a while, so the one-time cost is mainly due to equipment repair, inspection, and power washing of the windowsills and the concrete. Library patrons, especially in underserved neighborhoods, rely very heavily on free computer resources and technology that is available to them at their local branch. Many of our computers are past their life cycle, and all of them are over 5 years old. The PC replacement funding will cover about 345 of the 1,035 public PCs, and this is added as an ongoing budget item. We will also be continuing to assess the technology needs on a yearly basis to make sure we are allocating funding appropriately. $350,000 in the security services addition is to align the budget with expenditures and maintain the security levels we have, including having an additional overnight rover and a second guard at night at the Central Library. We are currently working with our vendor and the purchasing and contracting department to amend the contracts so that our security guards can carry naloxone and receive additional trainings related to working with vulnerable populations. A $287,000 increase to the materials budget is a $250,000 increase to the books budget and a $37,500 increase our budget for collection management software. This software will allow us to be more efficient in collection development and to meet the demands of the public. A $200,000 addition in the expenditure for the general fund donation match. With our 36 library locations, the current $1 million match provides a donation incentive which directly benefits community libraries by providing funding needed to source equipment, programming, and materials. The match provides much needed flexibility in support of the city's individual communities. Increasing the match will continue the library's ability to provide that donation incentive and enhance service levels for our patrons. And the reclassification of an account clerk to an admin aide 1 will help meet the business needs of the department and align the position to the work being performed. The reduction in the user fee is primarily special event revenue, but also some outdated fees were eliminated. The reduction is based on actuals over the last few years, and I do want to note that we are revamping our special event business model, so we do anticipate exceeding this revenue. That is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Appreciate the presentation. We'll now turn to our IBA.
Kate and members of the Budget Review Committee, I am Baku Patel with the Office of the IBA, and our review of the Library Department begins on page 138 of our report. The proposed budget for the Library Department totals approximately $65.6 million, which is an increase of $4.8 million or 7.9% from the FY22 adopted budget. The budget includes 460.33 FTE positions, which is an increase of 56.1 FTEs from FY22. The significant increase in both positions and budgeted expenditures is primarily associated with the annualization of benefited positions that were added in fiscal year 22 as a result of the department staffing reorganization that largely eliminated the use of hourly staff. Many of these positions were added on a prorated basis based on their anticipated start dates, so the FY23 budget annualizes those positions to make them whole. The department is now nearly complete with all initial hiring processes associated with this reorganization, and as of the most current information that we received, they were able to fill 207 of 275 open positions, leaving 68 remaining vacancies. As we just heard, by May 16th, all libraries are expected to have reopened, though the department continues to work towards filling their remaining vacancies with the goal of restoring Sunday hours by late summer. The council may wish to inquire further with respect to their current hiring progress and how this and other factors may influence how quickly Sunday hours can be restored. In terms of budget adjustments, the department did a good job summarizing those. There's just one item I'd like to comment on, and that's the $350,000 addition for security services. I just want to emphasize what the department mentioned, which is that this isn't to increase security service levels in fiscal year 23. It's really just to right-size the department's budget for these services based on the demand for increased security over the course of this fiscal year. The mid-year budget monitoring report projected a $300,000 overage at year end. So we'll be taking a close look at where this is at when the third quarter report is released in a couple weeks. Thanks, Chair Kate. That concludes my comments.
Thank you very much. We'll have public comment now. Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now open. If you have already joined the Zoom webinar or online or by phone, please do not wait and raise your hand as soon as possible if you wish to speak by pressing *9 on your cell phone or landline or pressing the raise your hand button on your tablet. As a reminder, members of the public who wish to provide their testimony in the virtual queue must do so before the queue closes, and that is when the last virtual speaker finishes speaking or 5 minutes after in-person testimony ends, whichever happens first. If you are in person, please come up to the front in the front row in order to be called. There is quite a few testimony, and please note those that are seating time must be present in order for that time to be seated. We'll start with Francine Maxwell, then going to Wendy Rashima Khan and Steve Hermes. If you can all please come to the front. Francine Maxwell, you'll have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. I would hope that we can increase the library budget. It's increased 4.8. If we can go ahead and go to 6.5 so that we can show equity and equality. Talking about Central Library areas of concern, Promise Zone, children have never been to the Central Library. So let's be clear. Malcolm X Library is one in the nation. And so we need to make sure that it's world class. The bathrooms are deplorable. The sound system no one can hear. And so we need attention, dedicated attention to our crown jewels. Each of our communities have a crown jewel, although Central Library is right now on everybody's radar. Let's remember, the neighborhood is where lives change. I'm excited about Sundays coming back because that's how my children were raised to be the awesome children that they are and the adults. Because Sunday is family fun day. Everybody maybe have different religions, but when that library is open, families descend on the library. So I look forward to you increasing the library budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Wendy Yoshima Khan, and she has time ceded to her by Scott Eric Berger. If you can please raise your hand. The two hands. Thank you very much. Please. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Good morning, Budget Chair Kate. Good to see you. Hi, Chris. Hi, good to see you. Council President Ela Rivera, Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, honorable council members and staff. I'm so happy to be here in person. I tried to get on last night, so I'm here. You got me in the flesh. I am here with other Library Transforms SD Coalition representatives to really thank you for your library support. We are so, so excited. As the city focuses on infrastructure needs, the coalition still wants to remind the council that libraries are an essential part of our city's social infrastructure. Investments in libraries help reduce crime, boost school success, and create connections to jobs and economic sustainability. Quality libraries also make our neighborhoods more livable. And increasingly, libraries and our amazing librarians are on the front lines of homelessness support. That's why we want to thank you for supporting new library spending, and we also call for further investments to address long recognized and long ignored maintenance needs. You know, we talk a lot about equity and diversity, and we talk about that a lot at the commission. And the city has identified $50 million in capital and maintenance backlog issues. So too many of our branch libraries, and you've heard about it, are in disrepair. It's time to address this backlog and make sure that every community can be proud of their branch library. We also ask that further spending continues to ensure our branches have the access to the latest technology. We saw that during the pandemic. Schools, people were looking for that access, and they relied on our libraries to be successful in school and work. And I'm always needing technology help myself. I always say ask someone under 20 or go to the library. We're a little bit passionate about libraries. We know you are too. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Sorry. Thank you so much. Next is Steve Hermes, and then we'll have Patrick Stewart and Ann McDonald, if you guys can start coming up to the front.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. Good morning. I am Steve Hermes. I'm the chair of the Library Foundation San Diego Board of Trustees. I want to thank the council members and the mayor for proposing a library budget of growth and not cuts. Libraries are much more than a collection of books. They are community centers that provide all San Diegans access to sorely needed resources and programs. While I am pleased that the proposed budget includes some additional needs, there are several areas of funding that is required. That funding is required to improve the services the library system provides. The Do Your Homework program employees need to be provided benefits to reduce turnover and help in recruiting. All branches need to have access to the latest technology, as demonstrated by its value during the pandemic. Continued increases in investments in materials and other resources, as the system is significantly underfunded. And finally, many locations have deferred maintenance and infrastructure issues that affect the safety of our patrons and employees.
Your time has expired. One concluding thought.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Patrick Stewart. He does have a minute ceded to him by Pat Wilson. Thank you so much, Ms. Wilson. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you and good morning. Committee Chair Kate, Council President Elo Rivera, and the rest of you honorable City Council members. My name is Patrick Stewart. I am the CEO of the Library Foundation, and I'm here with my partners in the Libraries Transform SD Coalition to thank the Mayor and this Council for the many library investments that are included in this year's budget. New spending for materials, security, public computers, and the city match are all steps in the right direction. However, our coalition believes that more needs to be done. Council President Elo Rivera, during last year's hearing, you noted that the city must examine how it invests in libraries and stop the systemic divestment in our system. We hope that this proposed budget is the first step in that process. Library spending in this budget still misses the 6% ordinance, which has never been met. Only about 3.5% in this year's budget goes towards libraries. Over the last 20 years, this failure to meet the library ordinance goal has shortchanged the library of more than $587 million. That's why we're calling for additions to attract and retain the Do Your Homework at the Library staff, boost the materials budget, address maintenance and branch needs, ensure technology upgrades throughout the library system, and focus on library branches slated for replacement or enhancement, like the San Carlos branch, Oak Park, and Ocean Beach, are remaining a priority. We know that you agree that San Diegans deserve a robust, thriving, and well-funded library system, so thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ann McDonald, and our last in-person speaker is Joan Reece. If you can please come up to the front.
Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here today. I, too, want to thank you for the support you have given to the library this year in raising the budget. I'm looking forward to having all the branches open and restoring Sunday hours at the libraries that were open before we had COVID. But I want to speak to the City Council in this restoring the access to the College Orlando Branch Library through Montezuma. This is a problem that you need to look at. The address of the library is on Montezuma, but yet the city does not own access to that. And we are paying, I believe it was $10,000 a month to the owner of the next door property. I want to say very much how I am in favor of the match, the increase, the $200,000 match. The city loves private enterprise and public-private enterprise, so I thank you so much for your support.
Thank you for your comments. Last we have Joan Reece, seated time by Charlie Goldberg. Thank you so much. You'll have 2 minutes on the clock.
Good morning. Honorable council members, I'm Friends of the San Diego Public Library President Joan Reece, and I represent volunteer Friends groups at all 36 library locations. Equity is very important to the Friends, and it guides our decisions about how we donate funds to support the library. The library is actually all of our requests for increased funding really are about equity. And I just want to let you know that our organization is actually currently working on the development of DEI strategies for our own organization. Thus, I really appreciated the opportunity to hear all of the discussion this morning about the new Race and Equity Department. So this morning, I'm going back to my script now. The Friends of the Library join with other Libraries Transform SD Coalition members to thank the Mayor and Council for needed new investments. We also want to thank you for unanimously including library budget additions in your priority memos this year. That was really quite thrilling to us. We hope this budget represents a move away from a historical pattern of underfunding the library. San Diegans in every community need and deserve a robust and thriving library system. The pandemic proved this, and the library will be even more critical during the coming and ongoing recovery. That's why we're asking for additional investments. Please help the library attract and retain quality tutors
by converting do your homework at the library hourly employees to positions with benefits. This will reduce turnover, which is currently 40%, and attract more qualified candidates to this essential and growing library service. We also ask for additional resources in the library's materials
That
and
was your
resources
time, ma'am. One
budget.
concluding thought.
Thank you. These investments are essential and long overdue.
Thank you so much. In-person testimony has concluded. The 5-minute timer will begin, and we will take all callers in the queue with their hands raised at the conclusion of those 5 minutes, or when the queue is exhausted, whichever occurs first. We will start with Patricia Mooney. You have 1 minute.
Here we go. Hi, this is Patty, and thank you for indulging me earlier on my little preemptive strike there. But I wanted to thank our beautiful, wonderful council member, Raul, and our mayor, Todd, Gloria, for making our San Carlos Library a priority, because we, the community, have been waiting for over 30 years for a new one. And there's been a sign touting, oh, new library coming, for over 20 years. It's a joke in the neighborhood. People have died who've been waiting for a new library. So we just want to thank you all for helping us achieve our long-standing dream.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comments?
I also wanted to mention about the Mission Dam dredging, and we fully support that.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll go to Steve Schmall.
I am Steve Schmall. I live in North Park and active in the Friends of San Diego Public Library, part of the LibrariesTransformSD coalition. Last night, I testified that even though the mayor, in his proposed budget, is asking for more money for the library system than in the current budget, more needs to be done, and it's up to the council to do it. Even with the additional $287,500 the mayor proposes for materials, San Diego will still spend far less than San Diego County. It spends about 3 times more per capita on materials and less than most California cities. What is the impact of low materials spending? It means that the library system has not been able to invest sufficiently in foreign language materials despite San Diego's growing diversity and high number of foreign-born residents. It means that patrons have long wait time for materials, particularly new and high-demand titles. Thank you for your past support of the library system, but please add more than the mayor proposes for materials, thus beginning to close the spending gap. And please support the
One concluding thought, sir. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Next is Joan Hayes. You have been asked to unmute. Thank you.
My name is Joan Hayes, and I am representing the San Carlos community as president of the Friends of the San Carlos Library. And I, first of all, want to thank Councilmember Raul Campillo and Mayor Gloria for all their support that they have given us in this last year or year and a half or whatever on moving ahead the process for the new San Carlos Library. We are now at the point where the groundwater case has been closed and it's going to the City Council. My request is for the City Council to fully fund the construction in order to bid and award the design build contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Cynthia Wooten.
Hello, this is Cynthia Wooten, a San Carlos resident, volunteer for community and environmental groups. San Carlos needs Councilmember Campillo's funding proposal or more for a renovated library on an expedited basis. This library is essential There are many surrounding apartments and houses, some for the elderly and infirm. The surroundings include elementary, high school, and children's daycare, and many San Diegans use this area for hiking, etc. In 2019, before COVID, this library was the top 10 branches for materials circulation. In the city's 2016 FCA study, this branch was one of the worst rated libraries for condition and maintenance. During Project Build, please be considerate of the community as I've described it. Please reduce diesel and gas air pollution. Please reduce dust pollution by using tarps and fencing. Please be considerate of noise. Please focus and expedite this project by careful planning. Please establish firm completion goals and stay on track. Please alert neighbors of specific construction. These are some of the things needed: staffing, sufficient room for books, more infrastructure for people's plugins.
That is your time, ma'am.
Better meeting spaces, which can add to the city's revenue.
Thank you. Next, we have Sally Small, but that was the timer, just so everyone knows, and we currently have 9 speakers. No other speakers will be taken than the 9 who have their hands up. Sally Small, please.
There we go. There we go. Hi, I'm Sally Small. I'm with the Emerald Hills Neighborhood Council and the Choice Valley Community Planning Group, and a former library aide in PB back in the 80s. I've always supported libraries, and I hope that you will continue to add more funding to all of the libraries, but especially for the maintenance backlog and creation of new libraries like the one in Oak Park that's desperately needed. Please add to the funding for more library materials, more materials in multiple languages, and equitable digital resources that in tech at all the branches. Thank you for adding Sundays back into the system. We definitely need it. And we thank you very much for putting more money into the libraries, because that is the backbone of our community. Malcolm X Library is awesome, but it's got maintenance backlog issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sandy Muskowski. I have asked you to unmute. Please unmute your device. *6. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. This is Sandy Muskowski. I'm with Lived Experience Advisors and HEAL Network, and I'm calling to thank all of you for your support and increased budget for our libraries. Thank you for recognizing that they create equity and community, especially for our most vulnerable populations. I grew up spending my summers in the library as a child, and during my lived homelessness experience, I relied on the library and all of its resources, as many other residents do. And thank you for doing everything you can with the budget to provide as many access hours for the library and the highest quality staff. Thank you again.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Milena Battaglia.
Good morning. My name is Milena Battaglia. I have lived in San Carlos community for the past 12 years, and my family and I have been patrons of the San Carlos Library. And every time I entered the building, I always cringed at its sad condition and desperate need of an update. I support Councilman Campillo's request to include funding in the library budget for San Carlos Library, and include funding for its design, build, contract, and for the next FY23 budget. And let's provide our library a house of dignity and respect, and demonstrate to our children that it is a valued institution in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Elisa Chavez.
Buenos dias. Good morning, ACA, Mayor Tagloria, council members. I'm Elisa Chavez, president of the Friends of the Oak Park Library, and I echo every single person that has raised the issue of keeping our libraries open, providing the resources that we need to upgrade everything. But today, I address you as the children that have benefited from the use of your community library, college library, law library, or even Native reservation libraries like myself. The Oak Park community has been advocating for a new library for over I'm going to say 50 years, but it is. And I'm again asking for your support to include a new Oak Park Library in the budget for 2023. And keep in mind that you're sitting in this chamber because you too had access to a library. Our Oak Park families and children need your support too. I really thank you for everything you've done for us, especially Councilmember Pro Tem Montgomery.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Mickey Zaschik. Sorry for maybe butchering your last name.
This is Mickey Zaschik. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
I've lived in San Carlos since 1975, and my husband and I have raised 4 children here, and they're all very successful. The library has been a major part of their life. In 1975, the library was pretty new, and for over 30 years now, we've needed a new branch library. I have been a very active member of the San Carlos Area Council, and we appreciate everything that the library has offered to us, providing a meeting room and giving us a place to meet. And there's so much more that the library can give to the community. A library is a central focal point of the community, and our San Carlos Branch Library is a gem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sonia Diaz.
Good morning, council members. My name is Sonia Diaz, and I am speaking as a former resident of Oak Park in District 4, where I grew up and where my family currently lives. I couldn't imagine my childhood without a library in my life. Now that we have funding for a new Oak Park Library, does it really have to take another 20 years to see its completion? This budget lacks details on how last year's allocation will be used in the design and planning. It's insufficient because we need to include a process for engaging the community earlier in the design so that it's meaningful, and include some kind of plan for seeking funding beyond FY23. Looking toward the future, we can no longer depend on the general fund or matching grants alone. We need to look at alternative funding sources so that we can have a dedicated fund for our libraries. We need to ensure that there's an equitable way these funds are prioritized in underinvested communities, especially south of I-8. Additionally, I urge you to support extending Sunday hours. An investment in our libraries is an investment in our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fanny. I have asked you to unmute. Please unmute your device. I'll give you one more moment, but I'll leave you in the queue. Fanny? Okay. We're going to go to Jean Linder.
Good morning. I'm Jean Linder from Claremont. I really appreciate that the proposed budget has not cut the library budget and supports some new initiatives, but I do think that more is needed. I'm a retired UCSD scientist, and I've really been appalled at how the lack of general understanding of science has hindered our response to the recent COVID pandemic. The library is doing a good job with the STEM and STEAM programming for students, but with additional materials and resources, it could provide the chance for many more people to learn about science and the scientific method and be able to address public issues rationally. I ask that you increase the library budget for materials and resources. I also recognize the need for more funding for the deferred maintenance of many library branches. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have call-in user 1. I've asked you to unmute. Thank you. Maybe please unmute the device that you're speaking into. I do see that you are unmuted in Zoom.
This is Claudia Thompson.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. I wanted to mention the broader view versus the items. The items certainly offer clarity, but the broader view is that libraries are an integral part of the social infrastructure of our country. Libraries are where a diversity of people are equally welcomed and served. It is a shared, free space for reading, research, the arts, conversations, building relationships and friendships, and much more. All payoffs for a functioning, enriched democracy. Perhaps what I've said is repetitive, but I think repeating is a good thing. I'm a member of the Friends of the Oak Park Library, and as you review this budget, I hope that you will consider the broader view to make this social infrastructure, the library, healthier and more useful to families, the community in general. So please ensure that all branches have up-to-date technology, bring materials and resources
Your
to
time has
national-
concluded, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to Fanny one more time before we conclude public comment. I see that. Yes.
Sí, bueno, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Mi
Le voy a
nombre-
poder. Buenas tardes. Yo le voy a ayudar con su traducción. Si por favor podría hablar en frases cortas, se lo agradecería mucho.
Ok, muchas gracias. Hola, mi nombre es Fanny Esquivel.
Hello, my name is Fanny Esquivel.
Soy residente de City Heights y he vivido por 18 años.
I'm a
aquí en
resident of
City
City
Heights.
Heights, and I've lived here for 18 years.
Y el motivo por el que yo estoy hablando es por las bibliotecas. Necesitamos más programas que ofrezcan programas en diferentes idiomas.
I'm calling on behalf of the library budget. We need more programs and more programs offered in Spanish.
Por lo regular todo está en inglés y es muy difícil participar.
Regularly, everything is English and is in English, and it's very difficult to participate.
Y aprovechar los recursos que
To be
hay
able
dentro
to-
de nuestras bibliotecas.
And to be able to appreciate and use all of the resources that are available at the library.
En esta comunidad de City Heights hay muchas personas que hablan español
In this community of City Heights, there are a lot of people that speak Spanish,
y no asisten a los eventos que hay en las bibliotecas por la razón de que no hay el idioma en español.
and they don't attend the events at the library because they aren't in Spanish.
Gracias, eso es todo.
Okay, that is all. Muchísimas gracias, señora, por sus comentarios. Que tenga buen día.
Gracias.
That concludes public comment for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. We'll start off committee member comments with Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Misty, I just want to say thank you. Misty Jones is running our libraries. I believe that San Diego has more library branches than any city in America. I think we have 35 branches. Is that correct?
We have 35, yes, we have 35 branches. We're still getting beat by LA a little bit. They have.
Well, they have about 10 times more people than we have, but we're doing very well, and I thank you for that. I just want to also thank you for opening the last Claremont library that needs to be open, which is Bergener. Claremont, which is the largest neighborhood in the city, has 3 library branches, and the Bergener Street one is the last one to open, the North Claremont. Or is it? No, South Claremont. South Claremont Library. Okay, and then also now the OB Library. I hear you folks in San Carlos. I want to tell you the OB Library is about 100 years old, and it was in desperate need of remodeling. Luckily, the city owned a building behind it, and so now we are building an annex where that building existed. And so I just want to thank you for that. I want to thank this city council and the past city council for bringing that money forward. For years, the community cried out for help with that, and it didn't happen until 2019 when I got on council, and Mayor Faulkner put some money in, my office put some money in. We got the plans made, planning department, the people in the city who build things, got the architecture and all this stuff together, and the community has begun to raise money. An anonymous donor has given $3 million toward it. I'm so happy to see $4 million in our current budget for that library. So people in San Carlos, hang on. You're not 100 years old yet, so it's coming. But I'm sure your library will be fixed soon, and you can count on everyone on this council being in favor of doing everything we can for the libraries. I think most of us grew up in the libraries. Knowledge is power, and factual knowledge is really powerful. And that's how we overcome inequity. So thank you so much.
Campbell. We will go to Councilmember Campillo, followed by Council President Ela Rivera.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleagues. It's District 7 Day on the call-in today. Thank you very much, Misty. The library budget has historically been vulnerable to budget reductions, but this year is different, and I'm glad that it's different. The budget for our city library department is increasing, including a much-needed increase to the materials budget and funding to replace computers in our libraries. And I appreciate the work of our director, Misty Jones, organizations like the San Diego Library Foundation, and the specific library branch friends organizations who contribute to advocate to all of us here at the City Council why investing in libraries is so critical for our city and our residents. I want to thank my constituents in District 7 for calling, particularly the Friends of the San Carlos Library, for voicing their support for construction of the new San Carlos Library, and our librarian there, David Egge, who works so hard to make sure our constituents are served well. These residents have been waiting for a library that was promised to them decades ago. I agree, 30 is less than 100, Dr. Jen, absolutely. I'm proud to announce that we have made massive steps forward in the last year and a half to bring this project to fruition. The San Diego Water Control Board recently issued a no further action letter for the proposed new library site, meaning the city has clearance to move forward and purchase that land on the price that we agreed to it in 1997 for $150,000. Thank God we got that contract in place back then. This is a huge undertaking, and I appreciate the partnership of the mayor's office and various city departments, development services with the permitting issues, who are working with me and my team to finally take the necessary steps to build that, what they've been waiting for 30 years. Grandparents now who thought their children would see the new library are just praying that their grandchildren get to see it. I also want to thank Sana Loando from my staff for shepherding the issue daily for our constituents. I'm encouraged to see that this budget also includes $200,000 in the city's library donation match, and I'm supportive of the Library Foundation's request for incremental additions of $200,000 each fiscal year until we get that amount to $2 million. Misty, you and your team work diligently, constantly having conversations with my staff, and I really appreciate how hard you've worked to reclassify the hourly positions this last year and fill in the new reclassified positions where workers are going to have more standard hours and better benefits because of it. The department was able to interview over 500 interviewees since mid-year fiscal year 2022 and fill 207 of the 275 budgeted positions, which is a tremendous undertaking, and I'm very happy to see that. That means while 0% of those positions were filled less than a year ago, now we're over 75% on that, and that's no easy feat. You've been great with you and your team filling those vacancies and dealing with the retention concerns as well. And I know we'll be working together in the future to make sure that we can see the Linda Vista Library hopefully get some Sunday hours. I know we've had conversations about that. I know you've taken calls from my constituents about that, and so I'm glad we'll be working to strategically reopen that library for Sunday. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Council President Ela Rivera, followed by Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you, Chair Kate. Thank you, Misty, for the presentation. I'm thinking about our conversations last year and how much better these are. No one's cried yet. Yeah, we had a collective freak out last year, right? I think the whole council and the community at what seemed to be unsustainable, drastic cuts to a system that had been cut. And so very happy to see that we're in such a better place this year. The thing that sent me through the roof last year, if you remember, was the window washing, because I thought it was a metaphor for how the whole system, your whole system, had been treated. We'll cut the tape for a new facility and then walk away. and not invest in it. And so very, very glad to see that. As mentioned, obviously the Central Library is important, but we need to invest in our neighborhood libraries as well. I know you know that. I know you're doing that work. That's why we're super glad to see the $200,000, the library match. You had started doing some of this intentional equity work, I think, before many other departments in the city, and I want to make sure you know that we see that, and this is one of the ways that we do that, right? You changed the way the funding worked so that we could get resources into libraries that had been locked out of receiving some of that funding. So thank you. I'm very glad to see the impact of that funding. Also happy about the $250,000 increase of the material budget. There's just a couple questions I have. The first, one more thank you, the staffing model and all the work you've done to get that up to speed. You've probably heard from a lot of my constituents about the College Rolando Library. Yes. Is there a update you can provide to us on the community's concern regarding the parking there?
Yes, so we did hear from the Friends of the Library at the commission meeting yesterday, and we are paying very close attention to that issue and understand the parking. We do have a joint use agreement with the current developer, and we will be looking at how the new plan that he's bringing forward to do multifamily housing will affect that joint use and potentially go back and try to renegotiate with that. He has not brought forward his final plan for what they're going to put on the site and what that's going to look like. So we're a little bit in limbo until we have that plan and know what we need to address to make sure that we're maintaining the access and the parking for that library, but it is very much a priority for us.
Thank you, Missy. I appreciate that. As you know, super important to the folks who live in that neighborhood. And then lastly, wanted to say thank you to Fani from City Heights for calling in. The point that she raised was an important one around resources needed to serve our whole community, yes. Including those who don't necessarily speak or read English. Spanish obviously being a primary language that is would be of great value to our community. As you know, the City Heights Library serves a community that speaks dozens of languages. So can you just, what resources do you need to help folks who I know really want to serve the whole community do that?
Yes, so that is, thank you so much for that question. And it's something that we have been working on diligently over the last 2 years, is to not only bring our programming back up to where it was pre-pandemic, but to make sure that we're offering program in many different languages, including we've started we actually have an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. They are looking at all of our materials, all of the publications that we put out, all of our marketing materials to make sure that they're in several different languages. And then start to introduce that programming. As you know, in the southeastern part of San Diego and San Isidro and Otay Mesa, we often have programs in English and in Spanish, and so we're working on bringing that out into other locations. So yes, that is our priority moving forward.
Thank you, Misty. I appreciate that. The last thing I will end on is I heard a few folks mention the per capita spending on libraries, and that it lags in comparison to many other cities throughout the state. I would just note, obviously, I don't like that. I think it's indicative of our city, some of the issues we have with respect to per capita revenue. Folks, I hear you on that. It's one of the reasons why we are so consistent about talking about growing the pie, so that we are not consistently from department to department to department with really, really important resources talking about lagging behind on a per capita basis. It doesn't need to be that way, but we do need to take measures in order to change that. Thank you again, Misty, for all the work that you're doing. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Council President. We'll go to Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, followed by Council Member Vaughn Wilbert.
Thank you, Misty. It's good to see you in person. And I also want to thank community members that have been consistently advocating for our libraries year after year after year after year. And I have to just call out, because we've talked about old libraries. I'm in the middle, 50 to 60 years, so I still beat you out, Councilmember Campillo. I hope it means something. But I do want to thank Sally, Alita, Ms. Claudia, Sonia, and Francine, who is in person. You know, it has been consistent, like I said, and I really try to honor that and have done that with every single budget memo. I found myself, you know, reaching for the last of the pot for Oak Park. And unfortunately, I've had to do that. Fortunately, we've been successful enough to get the feasibility study that we needed, that the community had been promised for years. That was probably about $250,000, right? That could have been done so many years ago. And then we are able to start that design process. But it looks like I may have to be trying to hustle to finish design this year, which is unfortunate. This budget is awesome. Again, all the members of the public that are here that have advocated consistently, the materials budget is going to be increased, public use computers will be replaced, the Mountain View Beckworth Library is now open and hours will be expanded. All great news. But I still, you know, would hope that I wouldn't have to do that at the end of the budget season and pull it out of the air and try to get money for design when we know we're on a track for Oak Park Library. So with that, I just want to ask, what, you know, as far as how we're looking with Senator Atkins putting in money also for this effort, we were there at the library together with the check presentation. How much more would we have to do or put into the pot to get to the construction phase?
Yes, thank you for that. We actually just spoke to Engineering and Capital Projects this morning, and so they are indicating that we would need, in order to get to the RFP for the design build competition, the competitive design competition, is an additional $500,000.
Okay.
And then there's a remaining 2.7 that would need to complete design.
2.7 million?
Yes, 2.7 million additional to complete design. But they could, with 500,000, they could go out to the competitive design process. And once a design firm is selected, then it would be an additional 2.7 to actually complete the design all the way.
Okay, and so an additional on top of the 500K to get it to that point.
Right.
Okay.
So 3.2 total for design.
Okay. And I will save additional questions for CIP about just kind of how, you know, where we are in that process, how has the community been included in all of that. The last thing that I do want to touch on is the fact that we do have an ordinance that requires us to fund libraries with 6% of the general fund. And I think since that has passed, we have not met that. I think we talked about Penny for the Arts yesterday. There are a lot of things that this council, whether we were in these seats or not, have said that we were going to do that we have not done. Now, there are many reasons for that, but the point is, I think we're in a time where we do have a duty on top of everything else that we're dealing with a changing world, to build trust with our community members. And if we say we are going to do something, it's like the council president said yesterday, either we have to work towards doing it or we have to manage that expectation that we're not going to. And I think some of the maintenance costs that we've talked about, we heard about Malcolm X Library. I was there last week. The sound is horrible. It needs a lot of updating. And I think if we were to begin to fund at that level or set a plan to reach that at some point, then we would deal with less of the deferred maintenance issues that we do have, because we're not going to get new money for that. You know, we may be able to advocate at the state to get the 3 libraries that we've talked about here fully funded and constructed, but we cannot go for maintenance costs. So I do want to put that out there as something that we should also consider. And my budget philosophy, last thing that I'll say, is that we're continuing to look at what makes people feel safe, what contributes to safe and healthy communities, and it's not just law enforcement. Libraries also play a role in that. And I am going to continue as a philosophy, as a budgeting philosophy, to look at that because I truly believe in it. And we've all talked about how libraries have changed our lives. I met Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis at the Oak Park Library. That's a life-changing experience. And so that's my timer, and I'll stop because I was pontificating, which I try not to do. But just as a budget philosophy, I think that this contributes to the safety of our community, so I'll do my best to continue to advocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. We'll go to Councilmember Von Wilpert, followed by Councilmember LaCava.
Thank you, and Council President Pro Tem, it was a good pontification, so please, anytime. Thank you very much, Ms. Jones, for the great presentation. I agree with our Council President. This is a great news presentation this year. You've done so much work from last year to this year to really get the libraries open again, change the staffing structure so they can stay open longer. The window washing is happening. Very excited for that. I also wanted to highlight one of the equity programs I think has been really successful in San Diego, and it's our Council Policy 100-12, which is the equity policy for our library funding for private donations. You know, we have more affluent communities who have neighbors who have extra money to donate, but it shouldn't just stay in those communities because every child in San Diego should have the same opportunity to learn to read, to have community, to get extracurricular classes. And so I know it's a 50% of it goes to a pool, and then it can be allocated by you to libraries in need. So I'd love to hear an update on how that's going.
Yes, so that is making a tremendous difference. And so when we revised the matching fund policy, we take 50%, as you said, and put it into a pool. And then we distribute that to each library based on median household income and the service population of that branch. So for example, if you take neighborhoods like City Heights that had the lowest contribution level of about $1,800 a year, and with that pool distribution, they went to $26,000 a year. So that makes a significant difference in the programs they can offer, the materials, the equipment. We're able to take care of a lot of priority needs for these branches that we have not been able to take care of in the past, and really just to expand the services, the technology, and all the offerings for the community. So it has made a tremendous difference. We will be continuing to work with performance and analytics to make sure that we are using the latest data and allocating those funds appropriately. And so we're doing that on a yearly basis.
Fantastic, wonderful. And I want to also congratulate you on the over 500 interviews that you did for the 275 vacant positions, of which 207 were successfully filled. That's a lot of work. I think that you gave us an update presentation a little while ago on this, on restructuring how you were getting folks in for part-time positions rather than on hourly. But I believe that one of your PowerPoint slides said that on average it took about 6 months to hire an employee. So does it really, it's taking that long to get people in our system?
Yeah, so we do, we have recruitment processes. So you do a mass recruitment process for the library position, and then we do the certification. And it takes a couple of months for those, to get that certification. And then you have to schedule interviews and you know, when you have 165 vacancies, which was the last process, you have to call 190 people to schedule an interview. So it takes very long. The interview process, and then once we make the offers, then they have to go through the background check and the health check if they're from the outside. So that does take a little while. And what we're seeing right now is we understand there's a little bit of a backlog with the Department of Justice and those background checks. So it's an additional 30 days. So we got that 165, you know, positions, and then we got a lot in, and then that slowdown hit. So we're waiting for those last ones to get onboarded and trained. So.
Got it. Yeah. No, you are not the only department who's told us that the hiring process here at the city is very lengthy, and so we are trying to work on shortening that so we can get good qualified candidates in who don't take other jobs while we're taking a long time. So I understand your pain. You're not the only director who said that. I also want to say I'm very excited about the new Pacific Highlands Ranch Library, which will be right above the I-56. It's all through the DIF funds, Development Impact Fee, FBA funds, because we're building thousands of homes along the I-56-15 corridor. So Councilor LaCava and I don't know if it'll be your district or mine by December, but we can both use it. So really glad to see those development impact fees going to use to build the community infrastructure we need when we build new homes. And then finally, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you do that isn't normally what librarians are supposed to be doing. So with the security contract, it's really amazing to see that Narcan is going to be given to security guards. When I was still serving as a deputy city attorney, I got to work with Misty first because I was litigating against the opioid companies. And I had to put together a fact sheet for the city on all the damage that opioid addiction has done to our city. And Ms. Jones reached out and said, we need help with the libraries because the city of San Diego does not do enough to provide addiction treatment to folks who are especially low income or homeless. And so where do they go? They might wander into a library. And so now that's why you have librarians having to understand what Narcan is and naloxone. So we are close to a settlement in that case, a nationwide settlement, hopefully, with these opioid companies. And I believe that some of the money should go back to the libraries to help with these costs that these companies have done to you so that we can use the library money to do what libraries do. So I'm off my pontification now. But thank you very much, Chair. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Councilmember LaCava, then Councilmember Whipper.
Thank you, Chair. I'll join the chorus of thank yous, Ms. Jones, for navigating the past couple of years in the pandemics and trying to figure out how libraries play through the pandemic process. And I know what must have been some very, very difficult conversations, but it looks like we're on the path. And then we gave you this incredible assignment to convert all your hourly employees to part-time. 500 interviews for you and your staff. Pretty amazing. And thank you for sharing that information, lessons learned with Park and Recreation, who was also going to go through that similar process. That's how we work as a city, right? We're all kind of helping each other. I want to thank my colleagues for your questions and comments and support for library. I really want to highlight the beautiful comments of my colleague, Councilmember Campillo. Certainly appreciate those. And wonderful.
Those weren't my comments.
And thank you for everybody that showed up this morning and called in. These libraries work because of your commitments and your passion going forward. And especially putting money where your passion is. I'm excited that the city increased the matching fund component. It's an amazing program. We've raised it from 1 to 1.2 million. And so does that extra 200,000 or even the 1.2 million kind of supplement the materials budget, or is it used in other ways, may I ask?
It's used in a variety of different ways. And so we really work with the branch managers, with the branches. We work with the community members to determine what the needs are for each community. So it may supplement a special collection at a library, or it may provide for new furniture, or, there's a number of different ways that we can use that funding. I'm really excited because that addition of 1.2 is actually going to give us an additional 400,000 to be able to use, and that's going to create bigger pool distribution for libraries, and is really going to make a significant difference in what we're able to achieve.
That is fantastic. I know sometimes the weeds of how we book these different dollar amounts sometimes can hide the real value and what it means to you as a director and what it means to our city. I want to thank my colleagues who found some loose change and were able to give us a tiny bit of money for the expansion of the South University City Library. We finally have a CIP number, so it starts as Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp highlighted, the very slow process that it takes to identify that we're going to do something, and then the incremental way that we fund these things going forward. And I think it's also a good segue from this earlier conversation about race and equity, about how we have evolved from this as a city, where we thought development impact fees were the way to fund infrastructure, and it is the burden that most of our older communities have suffered under. We have been collecting development impact fees for libraries in South University City, and there is no money for library expansion in South University City because the money was used in other ways. And that's why I'm supporting the mayor's effort to build better and to rethink about how we use our developer impact fees. Fast forward to our newest communities where we flip to facility benefit assessments. I'm excited that we're finally going to break ground on the Pacific Highlands Ranch Library, which is fully funded by developer contributions, and is the way that we finally woke up, not helping our older communities, but helping our newest communities go forward and to be able to build that. And I know that it's a substantial impact and additional personnel that will be needed to staff that, and we appreciate that putting in the budget. And I think I'll just stop there because my colleagues have made so many wonderful comments. But again, thank you to the mayor and Ms. Jones, you for your commitment to libraries and making sure they're fully funded and staffed and open as many hours as we can possibly afford. I still remember we have a $123 million hole in our budget that the federal dollars are funded, so we'll have to think pretty hard in the years ahead. Thank you for all of you that are so committed to libraries, and someday we'll get that South University City. Even though I'm losing that, I'm still committed to seeing that library committed when it gets turned over to District 6. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll go to Councilmember Whitburn.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Jones. You have a very popular department. I want to thank all the library staff, the volunteers, the supporters, a number of whom are here with us in council chambers today or who participated virtually earlier. And I hope that you're getting a real sense of the degree to which the City Council supports the libraries in our neighborhoods. One of my budget priorities since I took office has been to increase the city's donation match. For 18 consecutive years, the Library Foundation and the Friends of the Library have bet that $1 million match. And that serves as an effective incentive for private sector support for library programs and services, and to ensure that even more communities can benefit from those funds. I continue to support increasing that match by $200,000 this year. Very glad to see the increase in the materials budget. I would support more. We have a lot of catching up to do, including boosting the ebook and foreign language collections, among others, so let's keep going with that. Here in the Central City, residents are huge supporters of the local library branches. I know that because they are terrific about engaging with our council office. University Heights desperately needs a library that can adequately accommodate all the residents who use it and value it. Look forward to working with your team to figure out a way to get a new bathroom into the North Park Library. And thank goodness we're finally washing the windows of the Central Library. That's going to make a huge difference. People come from all around the city and beyond to take advantage of the Central Library resources, and we want everyone to rightfully take pride in that facility. So thank you very much for all you're doing, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. As Chair, I try to limit the times I speak, but on this one I'm going to take some time because this is the last time I'll get to have a conversation with the library departments and you, Misty, and everybody else regarding what I believe is just a core service that this city should be funding. No question, full stop, this is a core city service if we've ever seen one, and this is something that the city should be funding. One question, then I'll go into kind of some rants on comments. On the Sunday hours, have you developed the list already and kind of those first 14 that you're going to start with, and then kind of how you're going to progress through there once the staffing comes online and whatnot?
Yeah, so our plan is to restore the hours at the 14 that we had open pre-pandemic. So we only had 14 open pre-pandemic levels. I would love to be able to look at adding more Sundays. I know that they're extremely needed. But we initially had said that we were going to start with communities of concern. And so our first libraries were going to be Central, Logan Heights, Malcolm X, Valencia Park, and City Heights. But now that we have been so successful in the hiring process, we do believe that we're going to be able to accelerate that. So we actually will be meeting with MEA later this month to start talking about what that staffing looks like and how we start to implement hours. And our goal is to have all of them restored by the end of the summer.
Good, and that's great to hear. That was my only question, and just I'll say this and echo the thanks. I've really appreciated the relationship that we've had over the past 7.5 years with the departments, the foundation, the commission, the Friends of the Library. I mean, it's been really amazing to see the things that we've been able to work on, whether it's eliminating fines, it's getting funding for furniture at some of the locations, and when you go there and you see the difference, that funding for chairs and desks for students is like making a huge impact, and just using some CPPS money to pay for that. It's been really, really fantastic. So I've really appreciated that relationship. And the one thing talking about new libraries and the like, and even though District 6 is losing Claremont this December, going to the Balboa Branch Library and seeing how tiny that library is, and there is a piece of land right next door that the city actually owns. We don't have to worry about buying property. A perfect spot. I know we put some money into an account 20 years ago. I know, unfortunately, we've had to move that money because it's such a tiny amount. But as communities start going through the community plan update process, and you're asking communities to take density, these things make just unbelievable sense to do that. And so while I won't be here and Claremont won't be in District 6, that's something that you'll hear from me afterwards, and making sure that we can get that done. And piggybacking off of that is Mira Mesa. The Mira Mesa Branch Library, we have one library in Mira Mesa. It's about a little bit more than the population of Claremont. Claremont has 3 libraries. Mira Mesa has 1. Right now in Mira Mesa, we're going through a community plan update process where we're going to be asking them to take on about 24,000 new units and 41,000 new people living in Mira Mesa. We have 1 library. Unacceptable. And so for the folks maybe on planning who are listening to this or whatnot, as we go through the process this year, identifying infrastructure projects, that is a no-brainer. You cannot ask 120,000 people to go to one 20,000 square foot library. It's not going to work. And so whoever my successor is going to be, they're going to be hearing from me on this to be advocating for, because so much happens at that one library. You're talking multilingual and languages and whatnot. You can't ask them to do that. So again, going back to where I started, this is a core city service that we should be providing to all of our residents. You're asking neighborhoods to take density. You're asking them to build new units and take on new population, which is, Mira Mesa is a pretty older community in of itself. It's 50 years old. It's not a new community. We have to be able to go back and to build that trust with community members and tell them that we are looking out for you because we understand what you're taking on. We have to provide the services for you, period. So again, thank you all. I've really enjoyed that relationship that we've had the last 7 years and all the partnerships and things we've done. And I will continue to be a staunch advocate for libraries because I understand the importance of what you all do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I apologize, Councilmember Moreno. I got my tirades and I wasn't looking, so I apologize.
Don't apologize for...
Councilmember Moreno, please.
Don't apologize for speaking up for your community. Thank you for that. And thank you for the presentation. Thank you once again to the IBA for the report. I too want to acknowledge how the department has used fiscal year 22 to hire a significant number of employees to ensure our libraries are open. But we're not out of the woods yet, right? We have made good progress, though. One of the significant budget additions for this department includes $357,000 to replace 1,035 existing outdated public use computers. Will the computer be replaced citywide or only in certain districts?
No, they are going to be replaced citywide. And so actually that will replace about 345 of the 1,000. So it's not going to be able to replace all of them yet, but we are looking at, we have a lot of neighborhoods. We're really looking at the locations where computer use is the highest. And as you know, those are in our underserved communities, and that's where we'll be focusing our efforts, is to make sure that we are updating those and we're updating the oldest computers first.
Got you. If you could let us know where those computers, obviously I'm interested in District 8. That's, my focus. If you could let us know, please. Also, I want to reiterate my colleagues' comments on our 6% commitment, the ordinance commitment for the library. I would like us to see us inch our way in that direction. But overall, this department provides some of the most essential services in our neighborhoods, in my neighborhood. And I want to say I'm very glad that my comments from last year's budget didn't fall on deaf ears. And thank you, Misty, for your work. And that concludes my comments, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Misty, for being here, and your team and everyone for your work and advocacy.